What's up, guys? Tonight we're going to talk about white lights, about why it's important to have a standalone handheld white light in your EDC, and why it's important to have a white light on your firearm if that firearm is designed for any serious use like home defense. You'll have to forgive the LARP. My task light was just already attached to this rig, so I used it to help me set up for tonight. If you think you can get away with just running the light on your cell phone or running the light on your iPhone, you're sorely mistaken. It's okay to be wrong. It's not okay to stay wrong. As you saw, I've got a couple targets set up behind me at varying distance, and we're just going to go over real quick kind of what you would see if you used different power lights at different distances. The first one is pretty close. It's about 3 yards away, maybe 4 yards away. The second one is about 5 yards more, and they're about 5 or 7 yards staggered as they go deeper into the night. I do have a little light out here from the house, got some house lights on just so you can see me. And this isn't a perfect representation because this first target, I can make it out pretty well. It's a little dark on the camera, but I can make this guy out pretty well. Maybe not necessarily what's in his hands or what his intentions are, but I could tell pretty confidently that that is a target. Now, you know, in this case, maybe a human being, but I'm not exactly sure his intentions or what he's got going on. So this is pretty indicative of what you might find outside your own home. Maybe you have a security light outside, maybe you don't. Or if you're walking in a city that has a couple street lights, maybe sporadic street lights, not ideal by any stretch of the imagination, but a pretty realistic scenario because it's not just pitch black. I could walk around here. I would struggle to change a tire, but I could walk around here without fearing that I would trip over my own feet, for instance. So the first thing we have up is just a gas station light. I don't know the lumen output on this thing, but it is pretty bad. So for instance, if you're going camping, you forgot to pack a light, something like that, and you hit the gas station on your way there, this might be something that you would end up with. And one thing to note, these are custom targets. So I've given each of them a personality and a name, and I've given them something in their hands as well, because not everything is a bad guy. There's a lot of people, most people that you run into are not going to have any ill will towards you, and it's your job. You're in charge of your own safety. It's your job to figure out what's going on before you make any decisions. So gas station flashlight, first one about 3 meters, 3 yards, about 3 yards away. Second one about 5 yards, about 10 or 12 after that. And that little shed all the way up at the top is about 40 yards away. So gas station flashlight, this guy right here, I can tell he's a homie, he's got nothing going on. At about 5 yards to that, I'm able to start making decisions, but I can't really tell what's going on. Beyond that, they're just shapes. The second light we've got, and the real contender here, is just an iPhone flashlight. So we'll hit this guy, same deal. Pretty similar output to the gas station flashlight. It does have a little more throw, so I can see what's on the ground, or I can see what's around a little bit better, but there's no hotspot, there's no proper illumination. Still, same deal. This guy right here, 2-3 yards away, kind of know what's going on. 5 yards away, 7 yards away, I can tell it's a person. That's about it. And beyond, it's just really, honestly, really spooky shapes in the dark. After that, we've got a Petzl headlamp, pretty indicative of what you might get if you are kind of an outdoors person, going camping, stuff like that. This does have pretty decent output. It's got a couple different modes, pretty decent output, low, medium, and high. And here, this first guy, I got a good idea what's going on. The second guy, pretty good idea what's going on, kind of see what's in his hands, and kind of make out his intentions at that point. Third guy, I'm starting to get pretty iffy. Can't necessarily know what's going on. And then the folks behind him, good shapes. I can tell what's going on. I can tell it's people, but that's about it. And now we're going to step up into kind of what I consider a proper light. This is my personal EDC Streamlight ProTac 2LX, I believe. This is not the newest light. It's not the brightest, but it is really good. It's got really decent output, and I've been super happy with it, so it stays in my rotation. So now we're going to get into what I consider kind of a dedicated handheld white light. And first guy, plain as day, know exactly what's going on. Second guy, same deal. I can read his social security number if I needed to. Third guy, pretty clear, good idea of what's going on. Fourth guy, and that's probably around, what is that? That's probably 2, 3, 5, 7, maybe 15, maybe 20, 22 yards, something like that. I can see what's in his hands. I might not can read his mind, but at this point, especially with a proper light, he knows that I see him and he knows that I've got him clocked. And sometimes that's enough to kind of disincentivize any nefarious actions. Same deal with the other guy at about 30 yards. And even all the way up at 40 yards, I can make out at that shed, I can make out if that's a person rooting around out there or if it's a possum. I got a good idea of what's going on. So carrying a white light is kind of a non-negotiable. They're not that heavy, they're not that inconvenient, and just being able to blast somebody at short range with a white light, say, hey, I see you, I know what's going on, that can really give you kind of a social advantage, we'll call it that. And again, just to hammer it home, iPhone light, you know, good enough to change a tire in the middle of the night if you needed to, but iPhone light and then a proper handheld, it's night and day. It's a really easy choice in my opinion. And moving on to weapon lights, this is just a Streamlight TLR1 HL, pretty old light at this point. Inflation being what it is, it's still over, I think about $100, $130, something like that. But for a full-size handgun, it's a pretty good recommendation. It's a pretty good light. It's got really decent output. It's been rugged, it's reliable. It's got a lot of history to it. It's a pretty easy recommendation. And if you've got a firearm that you're gonna use for home defense or for any serious use, it should have a light on it. It's kind of your job to figure out what you're pointing a gun at and whether or not it's cool to shoot it. In short, just be blunt. You have to figure out whether or not it's cool to take that shot. And one thing I will say about this versus those other handhelds is it's got a pretty good hotspot on it. So on these first two guys, I know exactly what's going on. Third, fourth, fifth guy in the back. Fifth guy in the back's pushing it just a little bit as far as, and again, you have to make this call, but as far as taking a shot on something that far away, and this guy, I mean, admittedly, I don't know if you can see it, but that guy looks like he's got a Tech 9. If a guy shows up in my backyard with a Tech 9 and I get a good ID on that, I don't know the future. Not a fortune teller, but at least I know what's going on. At least I know what I'm pointing my gun at. But taking a small step back, the reason I recommend carrying a handheld white light first, it's kind of threefold. One, it's utility. Half of your life is lived in the dark, and this is just the cheapest superpower you can purchase, is being able to see in the dark. The second is kind of the social aspect of it. If you're walking alone at night, if you're walking your dog, if you're at a gas station and somebody walks up to you, if you know somebody's kind of getting in your space in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, it's a super good middle ground between actually pulling your gun and pointing it at somebody. That's kind of crazy stuff most of the time. Most of the time, if somebody's coming up, asking you for change, asking you for a cigarette, and you hit them with a white light and say, hey bro, I got you, I've clocked you, what's going on, what are you here for? A lot of times that's enough to kind of change their frame of reference, change their frame of mind. It lets them believe that you are paying attention in kind of the most blunt way you can without physical confrontation. And that's kind of the third facet of that, is going back to the gun idea. Not everything that is in your space deserves to have a gun pointed at you. Whether you're walking around your house in the middle of the night, maybe you've got a young kid, maybe you've got a teenager, maybe they snuck out and they're sneaking back in. The occasion doesn't always call for a drawn, loaded firearm pushed out at somebody, whether or not you're intending to fire or not. If you have to change a light or figure out what's going on or see if that's a squirrel rummaging around your house as opposed to an intruder, it's a really, really good idea to be able to do that with a handheld light instead of doing that with a loaded firearm. And now we're going to go on to a little more complicated aspect of carrying a white light and how kind of light interacts with the environment around us and that's called a photonic barrier. I don't know what it means. I don't understand the science behind it, but I have seen it in practice, and defeating a photonic barrier does require a little bit more horsepower than what you can typically get out of your iPhone light. So this isn't a perfect representation, but this is a pretty decent one. You've got a car, headlights on, pointed in your direction, which the camera is helping out a lot. I just see headlights and a little bit of what my yard lights can hit. So same deal. We're just going to do a quick little test with the iPhone, and I'm sure you can't see any difference because I can't. The iPhone it's on, it's illuminated. All I see are headlights. So you're going to need something with a little bit more horsepower to kind of get through that and figure out what's going on. We'll just go to the handheld, and we'll see what it actually takes to kind of get some good information out of a situation like this. Got a couple guys in the car and got a couple people in the back as well. So we'll just leave it at that. And in the theme of positive target identification, I dressed up these targets with each their kind of own persona. We've got this guy. He's got a little cell phone. Maybe he's just, he's got a little, maybe that's a scarf for a necktie, but maybe he's your Uber Eats driver that's lingering in the driveway a little too long. We got this guy down here with a little cross. Maybe you're maybe a Jehovah's Witness coming knocking on the door. This guy, I gave him cute little rosy cheeks too. This guy, he's got his suspenders on, but he is strapped, so we'll keep an eye on this guy. This guy is happy, and the reason he's happy is because he's got a Mac 10. Tough to have a frown when you got a Mac 10. This guy also got a little gun on him, maybe a gun in a shoulder holster, but he's got a badge, so this might be a detective showing up at your house in the middle of the night to give you some bad news. So just a little bit of something extra to kind of hammer home the importance of positive identification and how helpful a white light can be in some of these circumstances. That's it, guys. Hopefully that was a pretty decent demonstration to show you why you should carry a white light instead of relying on the light of your phone. They're pretty cheap. They don't weigh much. Just get one and carry it with you. That's all I've got for you. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.